A Fire on Cadillac Hill by Lisa Baumgartner. That was my maiden name. This was written around 1976. Inside, those clean white walls seemed to mock the dear old ragged furniture, now dingy and water-stained from the fire. All I had salvaged was stuffed into dirty cardboard boxes, out-of-style clothes, personal junk, all intermingled with the smell of smoke and the scent and lost nearness of Lenore. To give away all I had left of her was unthinkable. I had spent a whole month afterward going slowly through her books and sketches, records warped from the heat, and old letters from people she had told me about, but whom I had never met. Her path seemed much clearer than mine, but the bleak modernness of the new apartment had become unbearable. So out came my wrinkly raincoat, and I headed outside for a walk, hopefully for some rare, fresh breaths of the usually stale Akron air. Stepping down into the street, I wondered what was to become of me. The future was a milky, grim limbo, like the soot-laden sky above. I walked for a long time. Several greasy old men tried to stop me in front of the Perch Inn, one of them lunging for my elbow, trying to pull me into their bar for their amusement. He was drunk and smelly with whiskey, so dodging his grabs was fairly easy. But at the very last second, my foot slipped off the curb and into the wet gutter, soaking my shoe. Their garbled jeers and laughter faded as I hurried on, picking up speed and cursing under my breath. Why couldn't people just leave me alone? Although there had been no actual contact, the flesh on my arm felt all crawly at the very thought of his filthy touch. Cutting down an alley, the smell of maggoty, rain-soaked garbage penetrated my nostrils, and my stomach grew tight and hollow. Maybe some shopping would get my mind off of things. I headed downtown. ONeills, the big department store, was just around the corner. My nerves vibrated from lack of sleep, and I needed a bath. Despite the awareness of my shabby appearance, it seemed there was just no reason anymore to fix myself up. Some reckless urge told me to look like trash. On the right, leaning in a deep doorwell, several black whores tittered amongst themselves, already at work even though it was only Sunday afternoon. In Akron, I had noticed, whores worked around the clock, 365 days a year. I got used to them fast. Now I even liked them a little, though I dared not let it show. When I had mentioned this to Lenore, she frowned, turning away. She too had been like them. It hurt her to be reminded, and I was sorry to have brought it up. Now the sight of those lank, painted women put my stomach in a tight knot of sorrow. Maybe some coffee would help. Inside the store, I opened the little styrofoam container and took sips of the steamy brown stuff. Sour and hot, it made me more edgy than ever. I headed for the bargain basement, passing quickly the aisles of expensive fashions for people who don't know what it was like, or is like, to be a waitress. See, my professor marked on this a little bit. To live on my side of town, and to lead a meaningless life. A black salesgirl sneered at me when I looked at cosmetics. I felt ugly. Her yellow eyes and dreadful, splotchy complexion were beset by one of those new, fussy hairstyles they all seem to wear these days, frosted over with a little orange. Whatever happened to those lovely wild afros, I wondered. I used to help Lenore rub afro cream into her scalp every morning to keep her long black hair shiny and strong. Her skin was never dry. Of all the blacks I had ever seen, she was the prettiest. In fact, she was the first black person I'd ever known, if you can know another, at all. But soon, all her once strange mannerisms and dark features became old and familiar to me, had become old and familiar to me. A lot of her friends resented the fact she had a white roommate, but she had said, "It don't matter none to me." We had become quiet, trusting friends, and she said she was glad I was the one who had answered her roommate wanted ad. I had climbed the old wooden steps leading up to her loft on Cadillac Hill, feeling frightened and shy. What kind of place was this? When the door opened and I was confronted with a tall, dark female figure, a wave of regret swept through me. This girl was black, and living in a bad neighborhood to boot. I expected her to bitch me out with cold, unfeeling eyes, like all the other Negroes I had passed before on the streets. Catching my breath inside me, holding back from even smelling their strange scent, not wanting to intrude in any way. This girl had a smell about her too, but it wasn't a bad one, and from somewhere inside her apartment, I smelled rich food frying. Alright, I'm going to stop this segment and carry on reading. I hope you like it. This is January 24th, 2011, and I am Lisa Fox.